Next time you're in Dollar Tree, grab one of their wood pallets, or all the pallets really. I love to DIY with these things. We're gonna need not one, but two for this project. And you can paint them one up if you want, but I'm gonna leave mine neutral. And we're gonna also need to make sure we have two of Dollar Tree's wire baskets in this style. And I'm not calling this a craft or DIY necessarily, so to say specifically, but it kind of is. Or so it's kind of just a way for you to style the pallets with the basket. They literally fit in here absolutely perfectly. You could glue these or you could zip tie them down, completely up to you. You could even put one on the bottom and attach them together this way. That way you have a little bit more stability. And people, as simple as this idea is, there's really so much that you could do with it. This would look amazing in a bathroom, just putting some decorative towels in there. Or you could even take some dishwasher safe Mod Podge and paint over the pallets, so you can put your soaps on top of here, whether it's in the kitchen or in the bathroom, so it will protect your wood and give you a nice little oomph to your space. This is my first time seeing these larger craft wood pieces at Dollar Tree. I picked up two of them because I feel like they're the perfect size for this pallet shelf I want to build. However, people, they are really rough around the edges. I took my little sander and just knocked all the stuff off around the top and the edges. We want it nice and smooth because we're going to be decoupaging this beautiful napkin onto the top of both of these pieces. They're going to be our actual shelf pieces. So that's what we're going to see is the design of this beautiful napkin. Plus, I love how this napkin has just like a whole kind of different design going on throughout the whole thing. There's lots of use here. If you've never decoupaged a napkin before, a good tip is to always remember to remove the sneaky layers off the bottom. You're just going to want to use the top decorative layer on your decoupage. I like to just tear a corner. Most of the time it shows me those sneaky layers. It's quick and I just pull the whole piece completely apart. And this is not the only way to do this. There are several different ways. This is just what works best for me. I decided to cut the napkin in half so I had equal portions to use our Mod Podge to decoupage onto the pieces of wood. And real quick, I want to share with y'all something to help you maybe save some money. I go through these all the time. And if you go into the stores, sometimes they're pretty expensive. However, if you have a Ross local to you, I don't know if you know, but they have craft sections and you can get sets like this pretty inexpensively. I want to do the iron-on method to these boards, and people, one thing that grosses me out while I'm crafting is Mod Podge boogers. Ew. Ew. What is come on. Hey. Ew. Get out. Oh. It won't come out. I can't even stand it. I started gagging trying to edit that. That was all I could do. I'm sorry. The editing could have been better there, but that was all I had. I can't rewatch that section. You're going to want to take your Mod Podge without the boogers and make sure there is a nice, healthy layer all over the top of your boards, especially whenever you're going to do the iron-on method. You want to make sure that when you're all done putting your layer on, it's heavy and thick all over the piece. The worst part about this is it normally takes a couple hours for it to completely dry, and I like to allow mine to dry at room temperature. But while that's drying, it's always good to make the most of our time. So I grabbed the little wood pallets and my little spritzer bottle and gave them a couple little squirts, and then took some black chalk paint and applied a layer. You'll notice that I left one piece of the palette completely unpainted, and that's because we're gonna cut that sucker off using our miter shears. And people, honestly, cut it off with whatever works best for you. I just keep these right next to me, and I know that I can get up pretty close to the pallets. We only need the first 3 of each palette, so we can put on the side of our shelf that we're creating. When I was done trimming them down, I took a little bit of that black paint and went over anything that needed some touch-ups. While they're drying, it is time to bring on in the iron so we can iron on our beautiful napkin to these pieces that are finally dry. Once you have your napkin in the exact spot that you want it, grab you some parchment paper so you can apply over top of the napkin while you're doing your iron on. This is going to protect the napkin and protect your iron all at the same time and allow you to get a nice smooth finish. And then just work from one side to the next. Before you go sanding anything off, check all your edges, making sure that that napkin is butterly melted onto the Mod Podge and the top of that wood. And people, just in case you forget to check a section or whatever, it's a good idea to get in the habit of when you're sanding off stuff like this to go straight down. So this way it just disconnects your piece. If you go back and forth, it's possible it can shred it. I'm taking some of the same black paint and trimming all around the edge where the napkin is not. When everything was completely dry, I grabbed my current favorite wood glue and my hot glue and started attaching everything. Now, how you attach it is completely up to you. I decided that I wanted to start by assembling the pallets together, just so this way when I put them on the sides of our shelving unit, that they were kind of already together with a slight hold. So I could reinforce with more wood glue and more hot glue as I assembled everything together at one time. If you want, and I showed you right here, you can add a little bit more wood glue and hot glue and put a tumbling block at the bottom just for a little bit of extra reinforcement. And feel free, people, I know I didn't paint the underside. Make sure you paint yours if you want to. For the sake of time, I did not. After I was able to get the two shelves in place on the pallets, I then took the other pallet that I put together, the other little set, and put all the glue in the sections I wanted to put it on at one time. So this way I could just put that on the other side at one time instead of trying to do piece by piece. Dollar Tree had these little wood blocks and I thought these would be perfect for a hanging shelf with some pallets. We're gonna need 2 pallets for this particular project. If you want to make a set, you'll need 4 plus one of these little guys, which is really just like an extra bit that was cut off from previous pallets in my stash. So I can attach the pallets together. I'm just gonna cut a popsicle stick in half and use a little bit of Type On quick and thick wood glue and some hot glue right in the center of where these two meet. Then I took a little bit of that wood glue and that hot glue and put it on the edge of our wood block and attached the pallets. If you want to attach a clamp to this and let it set for like 30 minutes, you go right ahead. For the sake of time, I did not and just kept on rolling with the project. I also attached our little fence piece right to the front and then brought in a stencil with some painter's tape to just tappity tap 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 a little bit of black chalk paint right onto the top of this with a makeup sponge for a little extra design on our piece. I did the same thing right to the front on the opposite side. When your piece is all dry, if you want to add some sealer over it, you go right ahead. If you love these palette DIYs, check out this video right here. There are tons more for you to get inspired by. As always, people, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time.